Found result E426. Okay. Good evening, heroes and heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, in which we read out Vim error codes, I presume, upon doing something that's unrelated to Vim at all. I guess it's kind of interesting, actually, that the one key press goes to two different applications. So it's going to both Vim and to OBS. I wonder if we could exploit that in a future application that we develop. Anyway, we are streaming, we are recording, our mic is coming through, and we're about to do some more Cinera config file parsing. So the first thing I need to do here, spot. I wasn't freeing the include, so that would have been leaking a bit of memory there. Free include basically just, it frees all of these allows. That's basically what it does. And then, actually, that's a good point. We then have the result. So we're malloking, yeah. So we're now currently allocating the actual pointer to the config. So that needs to be. We need to actually free itself. Which I wasn't doing. Which is just like that, I reckon. So it'll free all of the allow strings, it'll free all the deny strings, and it'll free the include itself. Yeah, that's what we actually want. So we were actually leaking memory there, but with a bit of luck, we will remove this specific thing at some point anyway. Now I've got the situation here, parse multi-string assignments. Right. Parse multi-string assignment is taking our tokens. It is taking a config include, a pointer to a config include, and it's taking the field, pointer to the field. See down here, parse single string assignment. It's just taking a bare old string, a pointer to a bare string, and the other things are the same, right? We only passed this through because we couldn't figure out how to actually pass a pointer to a string through. Well, we couldn't figure out how to actually pass the correct stuff through, such that we could do this push string. But I now want to see if I can actually get that to work, and I think I kind of know how it would work, but it might not do. So I set up this struct. It was basically a string count, wasn't it? So we still have that, yeah, we do. Which is just going to be a count and a pointer to a string. Now I'm going to try and actually use this again. See if it works, because it's essentially the same as this dude down here, right? The allow counter and the allows and the denies, it's essentially the same structure as that, but we couldn't get it to do what we wanted to. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to basically try and mirror the single string. Make it take a string count, a pointer to a string count, right? And then in here, when you do a push string, we want this. So this guy's also taking the config identifier. sorry, it's taking the config include, and the fit string is also taking the config include. So what we want to be doing here is actually saying the same thing. Make this take a string count, pointer to string count. And then actually sort of use that rather than using a full config include. I guess also we could potentially change the block size. I mean, you could even sort of say, I mean, yeah, you could add the block size in it. Why not? Right. So let's say actually if block size is not set, then we just fail, I think. I mean, let's forget that for now. And also let's forget about the putting block size in there, just to get it working. So the count, we're already going to have the S count, right? So we don't need to be doing that. We've already got the string as well. So all we should be saying, right? Sorry. And then size of I mean, yeah, size of string. Because we're only allocating onto this dude here. Right. I think that should be all okay. Then you want to do this, push string. And then here it would be, see, fit string. You're not checking anything to do with idents anymore, or the ID actually, for that matter, because you don't care about that anymore. So you got your dash, you got your string. So rather than checking either of these, it's just like sorry. Right, it's essentially this, isn't it? I think that's correct. So then when you come down to the actual place where you use that parse push string, in this area, parse multi-string assignments. So we've got the dest comes in as a string count, so we're passing the dest. Right, so it's when we call parse multi-string assignments. And also this guy doesn't take the ID anymore, does it? So that seems to be correct. And then when you come down here, what you do is you then say string count. And you say the local string, well, basically want to be saying that that is equal to the result oh yeah, right, so that was it. This is where you do the ifing. So if the field the field ID is equal to ident allow, then you say that the local string, so you want to say that the address of the local string is equal to the address of the result allow string, right? And you want to say that this, I think it's also that, isn't it? Then rather than passing the result, you then pass a pointer to the local. So what's the problem here? Do we choose that? Okay. So I can't do that. I can't assign to type string from type string star. Okay. Assign to string. Pointer. Now, maybe this will work, but maybe it won't. I'm just suspicious that it won't. I mean, maybe this is just another case where I don't quite understand pointers well enough. So local string, we're just trying to set that. Because I mean, basically, I want this local string to be this exactly. I don't want it to be the value of it necessarily. I want it to be actually this. So when I change this thing here, I'm actually changing this actual thing. Let's just see if this crashes. It doesn't crash. It doesn't crash, and it gives us the same output. So maybe that's just how you do it. Maybe that's correct. Free include if parse multi-string is out. Yeah, right. That shouldn't have built, should it? Okay. So previously I was trying to do this. Okay. So it's possible that I got that bit wrong, or it's possible that I got, well, I mean, I did get this bit wrong up here. I got that incorrect. But then it's possible that I got this push string wrong. Or the fit string. Possible I was just trying to pass the wrong stuff around. Getting the count all messed up. I think I was finding that when I did this right here, it was failing. I think that's what I was finding. Oh, I'm not going to have it because I've rebooted into a new kernel just recently. Okay, so I think we fixed that. Now, I mean, since I've got this string count thing, I could potentially sort of roll that into this. I don't think I'll bother doing that. I mean, I suppose I could do, couldn't I? I mean, what would be the... I don't know. It's probably not. It's not that important actually. Probably won't be that helpful. Or will it actually? Now think about it. If I do that, then I could, rather than initializing a whole new thing here, you just pass this guy well, I suppose you do actually need to set this somehow, but you do just an if in here. Let's do that. Let's do it. So rather than having all that stuff, you just have, and maybe not string count, because it's not just the count, it's like a counted string, or it's like a string list, maybe. Let's call it that. Call it a string list. Right, so we're going to have those guys here. So I've got string list allow, didn't I? I'm going to have a count string. And then what you do is you pass the actual string list down, which we are doing. And then you want to be saying, I mean, you could have it like a free string list, couldn't you? And that'll be free. Compatible tag of a free string list. So should we be passing this? Let's misspell that. So now here, rather than doing all this business, you just sort of say the field ID is equal to ident allow. Then you pass the pointer to the allow. Otherwise you pass the pointer to the deny. And then in the print include, you then change this to that. The allow I string subscription values now that array not pointer or vector. So what have we got? We've got the config include. So we've got the allow count, the allow string. Why is that not accepting it? Because allow should be, there should be a number of them. string list. Oh, it's the it's a string actually. Sorry, of course. So it would be that. So deny string. There we go. So a bit. This should be fine as well. Yeah, it is. Now what's different there? Oh, we got the allows this time, whereas we didn't get the allows up here for some reason. Wonder why that was. So we got them there. You see that these guys, we've got the allow count 3, allow there. Did I just do a build where it didn't get the dudes in for some reason? I mean, it's working now, so whatever. I suppose we could do like a print string list, maybe. Wonder if that could be fun. I suppose it doesn't matter too much for now. But yeah, anyway, we've now got a count and a string. So we've got that thing going on there. Now, do we have any other instances of like something count and something string? So we've got a T count, so there's tokens. So a token, yeah, okay, so it's a count of a token, and a token is this stuff. I mean, in a similar way, you could sort of say token list, couldn't you? And then, I mean, if you think about it, tokens is actually just that. It's exactly the string list, except that we add in the current index as well. Config type specs, yes, okay. So yeah, it's exactly the same idea, isn't it? Tokens, yeah, okay. Tokens just. So the only difference is that we've now got a thing that is just a string list. So we've released that from the shackles of the config include. And now these guys are essentially exactly the same. The only difference being that this one does a push string and doesn't bother to report this failure error if the field is already set. And this one sets the dest pointer directly and does report the error. So that's basically the difference between these guys. I think the next thing I'd like to do is see if I can make the set support and the set include functions like the same function, essentially. So now that I've done that, I don't need that at all. And all of this stuff can go because we're now using the field is in spec idea. So that can else and if that can all disappear. These guys aren't singletons. This is where we pushed our thing, and we just fixed that. So that's like that. So you can see that these guys are essentially the same thing. something up. Set support, set include. Suss out how we'll replace result icon here. So we don't have the singleton code in here. What do we have? We've got the token types back. Config include. Token is colon, that's all the same down to there. Reset fields, result. So while that is not that, we do the field. If field is singleton, so it's all the same down to the singleton. Part. So that's going to be different. And then the else, parse multi-string assignments. That's a bit of push style thing, which is this. And then the else, and then this. So yeah, they're exactly the same, apart from the stuff that we're actually pushing onto. So I could just sort of chuck that in. The interesting thing is that this result, so the result is going to be depending on what the thing is, you need to do different things. Like you need to free just the result in this case. In this case you need to free include. I mean, maybe you could pass a pointer to a function, and the function and that is just sort of saying, look, if it's an include, then use the free include function. If it's a support, then use just the free function. Oh, I forgot to put the music on, by the way. Sitting there with my headphones on. Been going for half an hour. Got no music. So I'll tell you what. Just give us a couple of minutes. I will be right back and I'll put the music on. You won't be able to hear it for copyright reasons, but I will. So yeah, be right back. Check the chat. Nothing happening. I think what I'm going to have to do here, right, what I want to be doing, I want this to be able to return different things. I want it to be able to return a pointer to a config include or a config support. So I think what I need to do is actually return a void star. Does that just work as it is? Yeah, that does just work as it does. Then I need a way to be able to how can I say this? I need a way to initialize, so right, similar to how we've got this thing here, right? You initialize this string pointer and then you set it depending on what that actually is. What I want to be able to do here well, actually, maybe that isn't true. I was going to say, right, that I want to like initialize a result. So for example, just do this. And then here, you actually like cast, where you sort of set like, you essentially do that sort of an idea, right? So that did pass. Complete analysis result, yeah, so we managed to get that. So you do that cast and then you calloc that thing. Does that make sense? And then having done that, the result itself is actually allocated to the size of a config include, despite it being a pointer to a void. Right? And then you can just go through like normal. But you need to make sure, you basically have to be switching on the actual type of the thing that you're dealing with. So we've been passed in here, we've been passed a type spec. So we know that we need to get a type spec for the ident include. So we know that in this function we're dealing with an include. Right. So we know that it is a config include that we need to be talking about. So in all of these places, you would then be talking about, if it's an ident include, you do this. But if it was an ident support, you'd be operating on a config support. And where I set the file name, you would be setting the result ID. Now, the reason I'm thinking of that, I'm doing it that way, or doing it some way that I can actually take this and then operate on it as a config include. It's just so that you can return the same dude, right? So you don't have to like switch on the type spec every time you return. Every time you need to return the actual result, that is. When you need to return 0, you just return 0. I guess this also doesn't matter, does it? This doesn't need to know what the type is. In order to allocate this, all it's doing is taking that pointer and saying this, right? That's all it needs to be doing. But this thing here would need to actually be able to know that the result has the config include. So I presume you just need to do something like this. There's a pointer to it. So what's the problem? Do you reckon void star pointer? Ah, okay. Okay, so you can't do that. So it's like I would need to I need to set up a different sort of thing. You know, set up an actual pointer to a config include, and then actually return that thing. So in some ways it sort of seems like this ain't gonna buy me anything really. Well, actually, this is that. You set something else to be that, and then you're just operating on that. So if it's that, you're operating on the thing, then you should still be able to, you know, this actual void should still contain all of that information. So maybe that could work. The only problem actually is that you need to initialize a pointer to all the things that it needs to be a pointer to, which sort of actually suggests that if you're going to do that, you want to include in the type specs an actual pointer to one of these dudes, right? Because you always got this, and you're going to need for each of those types, but you're going to need a different thing. Let's just try that. Oh, that's the point. How do you do this? Because if that's the return. Yeah, I mean, you kind of get into a situation where you would be, you just include all of the different, it'd be kind of like a union, I guess. Although maybe it wouldn't, because these things can't be the same. Well, they're all just pointers, aren't they? I mean, this this might not be the best approach to it at all. Let's do the long drawn out version first. Because there isn't much function, there isn't much going on here really, is there? With a bit of luck, this should fail. Well, actually, this is going to fail anyway, because this guy is one of these. But yeah, you can see the result of that icon. Basically, the long version is basically this. I suppose again though, like in trying to generalize this, we're sort of losing some of the benefit of the type specs, right? Because basically the type specs allow us to do this sort of looping. Well, it's not. There's a loop in field is in spec. It allows us to use this field is in spec to determine whether the one of these, whether like the icon or URL is actually in the support type. So we don't need to actually specially handle anything really. The only thing we need to specially handle is actually setting the stuff up. You know, setting the setting the contents of the config include, well, the config support. But yeah, like as I was saying, let's just do the long version. So it's going to be essentially you initialize one of everyone, right? And then rather than using result all over the place, you're using whatever you actually need to be using, depending on what the type spec is. What is this? It should have the ID, shouldn't we? So the config type spec count. So it's just the field config identifies the ID. So yeah, we should be able to get the specs ID out. So we don't need to be using the ident include. We should be able to just say, well, in fact, for all that, you can just make this guy say set include. Type specs is going to be taking the type specs. Oh, we need the init type specs. So yeah, this push type spec. So that concludes the ident include. So I think that was just a bit of a mistake. Right. Get type spec for the type spec. Yeah, it should just be here. Actually, yeah, maybe you do need it. So this would actually take. So the type specs, right, it's just all of the type specs that we actually know about. But when we do this, we only want to be setting it for the thing that this is. So, I mean, in some ways, you want to be doing, you could actually just derive it, couldn't you? Because set include, right, if token equals config identifier strings ident include, you've already established I mean, I suppose you could just, yeah, you could just pass that value down, couldn't you? If it's an identifier, so if the type is a token identifier, I guess we could probably do with a function that's like get identifier ID from string, get ID from identifier, get ID of identifier. You know, in a similar way to how we do the field within spec, kind of. Let's leave that for now, and let's just change the set include to take to take this thing that it's received, that we've already found out here, right? Same with the set support, but let's leave it to do. Or get identify ID from token. Not sure what that should be called. Right, but then this guy would take and you could use that that's passed in, and then both functions can actually use that. So we've done the set include set support. So has no member named icon yet? That's fine. That's all that we're sort of fixing here. So well, actually, let's switch on it. It's not results, it will be include. Right. And then since they both actually do that file name at first, we could just roll that into the this thing up here. and similarly to this thing over here, set include. Sorry, set support is what I'm after. Alright, and that'll also be like that. I guess we could also actually say that well, hang on a second. Couldn't we just do this? Right. Could we not just do that? Then we can return the result like normal. Ah. Do you see what I mean? I mean, it's a bit cheesy. And it's probably not at all what I want to be actually doing. Because if you recall, what I was talking about the other days was like not returning the actual thing that we need it to end up as, but just returning some intermediate representation of it before we later actually, well, resolve the stuff and then finally stick it into the actual structures that we need. If token is a semicolon, no increment that's the current index. Just code in, return the result. If token is an open brace, don't want to reset the fields with the type spec. So it's all the same. Comment field, present spec, type spec that. If field. So if we've got a field, if it's a singleton. Here we go. So we want to be switching on our dudes again. And in this one, we only need to support the ID support. Also, yeah, I usually tend to do it like this. So let's just do that. So either way, if it's a singleton, we need to have a local result. And then you pass that local result. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you need to do there. Maybe don't do anything. because you probably shouldn't be able to actually get to a case that you can't support, frankly. Apart from while I'm actually developing the thing. And then, yeah, like here we probably want to have a string list. Yeah. Okay, so field IDs are equal to ident allow. Oh, sorry. If this, then we say that the local result is equal to, right? That should be right, shouldn't it? Or shouldn't it? Yes, I think that should be right. And then down here, rather than doing this check, you just pass the actual local result. I mean, unfortunately, then you're in this other situation here, where you need to be switching once more. So there's, well, it's free include, yeah. So here we go. So in the same way, in this failure case here, you actually need to free different things, and both of these things do actually need to free. And also, yeah, up here, right. So wherever we need to be freeing, we want to be saying again, we're just switching on the ID. Right. So that's basically the thing that we're going to need. Whenever we need to return 0. Right, down here as well. And there's one down there. And there's another one down there. And then we can return results. So maybe that's okay. So here we go. We've got ident allow not handled in switch. It didn't work. It didn't work because, well, I don't know why, but we see that we don't get the allow. So we've got no allow count, got none of that for some reason. So I should take this time to mention that this is actually almost definitely not how I'm going to do it eventually. This is literally just to sort of kind of get some ideas together as to how to produce a function that does all the stuff for us. And then I can later actually figure out the proper way to do it. I wonder if in the places where I'm returning something, see this return result, I wonder if I should try actually switching on the IDs there, actually, just to see if that does anything. So yeah, we now did get what we wanted. We did get the actual allow count. That's kind of unfortunate that setting the result to be what we supposedly wanted it to be didn't actually work. I mean, can you do this? dereferencing that result is equal to that dereferencing. Right, yeah, seems that you can't do that. That ain't gonna do it. Why isn't that gonna do it? Reader size 8. Allow counts. Stack buffer underflow. In print string. Okay, so it's when you get out there. Oh no, have I lost the lost all the edits I did? Yeah. Oh, it's down in there, is it? Okay. So what is it saying? It's return results. So it's going to be adding plus. Would that be it? Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's all kind of very silly because I mean one of the things I was trying to do was like, you know, have this notion of config type specs to avoid you having to actually do this whole process of basically special casing, you know, writing this function in a way that actually mentions all of the different cases of things, if you know what I mean. Let's just see though if the theory is borne out by reality. Yeah, so everybody's able to use that one function now. Not at all proper. Not at all correct. We need a proper free config. Do a get identifier ID from a token sort function? Yeah, okay. I mean, you can sort of see the problem though, right? In terms of that whole type spec stuff. So the only difference, right? I mean, obviously we do need the different types. we would need the different types if we actually continue doing this kind of a thing, so that we can actually kind of reference stuff like include file name versus support ID. But I think, as I was thinking, wasn't I? Oh, right. Yeah, right. So the idea was that a config type spec itself could contain a pointer to a config support, right? But then it's like, you still end up in the situation where you actually need to be able to reference those things. What is that pointing up to? Is that the suss out how we'll replace such and such a thing? Yes, it probably is. It's probably that down there. The local result. Yes. I mean, the interesting thing about this parse single string assignment is that we only need to actually handle the types that actually have single string assignments. So we could get away without having that. Similarly, we could get away without having this, because that doesn't have any multi-string assignments. In both cases, we always need to return the thing they're actually talking about. Did this break? What's going on there? Did it again over here. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there is the option of just doing it like this, right? And just like for each type, for each identifier, just have one of these things. I mean, the alternative is making like an abstract syntax tree, probably. Let me just look up what one of them actually is. Parse trees. Typically built by the parse trees. It's an ordered rooted tree that represents the syntactic structure of a string according to some context-free grammar. John hit the ball. Reflect the syntax of the input language. Parse trees concretely, apparently, reflect the syntax of the input language, making them distinct from abstract syntax trees used in computer programming. Unlike read-catalog sentence diagrams used for teaching grammar, parse trees do not use distinct symbol shapes for different types of constituents. Contextual analysis. Semantic analysis or context-sensitive analysis is a process in computer construction, compiler construction, usually after parsing, to gather necessary semantic information from the source code. It usually includes type checking or make sure a variable is declared before use, which is impossible to describe in the extended Backus-Now form, and thus not easily set during parsing. Yeah, I mean, we don't have any conditionals at all, so we don't have that sort of thing. We do have variable names. Structure, yeah, I mean, maybe because it's representing the structure of program code. By structure, do they mean this kind of like if, you know, the conditions and where the control flow goes? don't know. I'm not sure if an AST will be appropriate for me here. I suppose I could just remove this set support at the least. Could you never call that anymore? We don't call it, but we do parse the support dude. So all of my variables, right, are like singular. I know that we've got multiple allows, but basically what I mean is that when you've got this icon, right, you got that and this and this and that and that and this, right? So basically what we're talking about there is a key value pair. The key being the thing in white and the value being the thing in green. Pager in itself is also kind of a key value pair because that is the ID of the type. So rather than parsing into actual structures as I'm doing here, you know, setting file name is equal to token content, maybe what I should be doing is just building up some tree that is just describing, that is basically this, it's basically saying the root node is going to contain a scope with ID Patreon. Inside of that scope is going to be a key value pair with key icon and value this. It's going to contain another one, that, and that's it. Then again, we come back out to the root scope and we say that we add, and then we add to the root scope another scope, which is PayPal, which includes the icon, which includes this key value pair. Right, so there it's kind of like separate from the actual destination type. And then after you've got all of that stuff in, you could probably just go through all of the values and see, does this value need to be resolved? For example, does this thing have a dollar variable that needs to be resolved wherever we are in the actual tree? If so, then resolve it, right? Then finally go over all of the things go over all of the scopes and just finally then do the switch on them. So you switch on the scope ID in the case of support, then basically push a support onto the config. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing here. Because you can sort of see out here this thing is printing out Patreon icon URL. This doesn't need to really care what the type of these dudes is. All it's actually representing here is the notion that there is a scope with ID Patreon, which is containing these key value pairs. The scope that contains PayPal, which contains this key value pair. The scope with ID Cinera include, which contains these key value pairs. There's a scope with ID Cinera included, which contains nothing. How do you represent that exactly? Maybe you also need to all say that it's a scope. Well, actually, scope with ID icon. Sorry, scope with ID support value Patreon. Maybe that's what I need to be doing. And I guess while you're doing that, you could also type check it. You know, as we're doing now, we're sort of saying this. We've got an invalid identifier, and also we've got too many icons. So there's too many icons set here, and we're using an identifier that's not even allowed in the support. It's not even in the support type spec. So maybe we could still type check. Maybe that would be fine, because we've got the idea of type specs. So yeah, that'd at least give us the structure. Because at the moment we've just got a list of tokens. Right, all of these guys are just literally just what I can show you. Oh yeah, it's not print config that even prints it. We've got all of these 293 tokens just listed out. So we would be gaining something by actually structuring these dudes into the tree, into those scopes. And also type checking them as we go. Then once we've done that, you can go through all of the scopes. Well, you go through all of the key value, you go through all the members of the scopes, resolving them. Well, also in here actually, you can sort of consider this to be a sort of scope. This is just a scope with no members. Right. go through all of the scopes and key value pairs or whatever, resolving these things where necessary. And then finally, actually building the thing that we need to end up with, building the config structure we need to end up with. So yeah, I think that's what I'll do. Not right now. I think I'll call it a day here, get some food. But yeah, I can't see, like, food's important. Totally is. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear my stomach rumbling, actually, dude. I suppose the alternative really is trying to make this Parse assignment dude do the whole shebang. But as we're finding out, it's seeming to be pretty arduous, and we're not being able to make use of the type spec very well. But if we forget about the idea of doing a type spec, we're not returning the actual resulting structure. All we're doing is we're pushing these guys into basically a tree of scopes. In which case we could take that tree as well, and it wouldn't return anything. It would just, well, maybe it could return. It could just return success or something. Maybe, I don't know. But then rather than doing any of this, won't do any of that. And it wouldn't need to do, well, it wouldn't need to do any of that either. It would just basically be expecting tokens and saying whether it's succeeding. And then if we've got an open brace, then you basically push a scope onto the parent scope that we've been sent. And then you just go through, and rather than bothering what the actual thing is, well, actually, you could type check, couldn't you? Still, you could type check. Well, it'd just be here, wouldn't it? If field is in spec, right? If the field isn't in the spec, then you do whatever happens, invalid identifier. You just do that. You do that, and then you depart the string assignment. And you wouldn't have allocated anything for these guys anyway. But if the field is in the spec, then you simply push it onto the parent scope, right? You don't need to do anything like figuring out what, whether it's a support or what. So Parse single string assignment would really be like push single string assignments. I mean, for all that, the single string assignment of multi-string might even be able to become the same function actually, because the only difference between them, well, actually there won't be any difference, will there? There won't be any difference when we, well, I said there won't be a difference, but I mean, if we switch to just pushing key value pairs onto scopes, then we will always be pushing, right? We'll be doing what for both guys, we'll be doing what the multi-string assignment dude does, which is push string. But rather than it being push string, it would be push pair, right? Or push string pair. As opposed to this guy here, which is just straight up setting that one value. So that they would both push, right? But the only difference would be is we'd warn if it's tried to set, if it's pushed another guy on. I guess maybe, yeah, if something is set, we could probably do something where it's either like you just don't push, or you replace the previously pushed one, maybe. Depending on whether we want it to end up by default giving us the first assignment or the final assignment. In this case here, we're actually using the final assignment, so we're always setting this. But if it's set, then we warn. Token because I don't support. The only difference between these dudes is that this is, again, it's just sending the type of the actual thing in here, or rather it's not passing it in, but it's setting it from here, so that wouldn't be a difference. So yeah, this function parse assignment could just end up being like, is this thing a known token? Sorry, is this identifier an actual known type? Which would be from this, right? The init type specs. This guy would be saying, it's going to contain it's going to contain an ident support and an ident include. So that thing has it. So we basically if token is a valid identifier. Then we go through. We'd have to handle the case where somebody assigns something that isn't. But yeah, I feel like that would just give us, that would get us some more of the way to the finish line. You know, forgetting about the actual types of things for now, and just pushing scopes onto just a generic tree. Using the type information to make sure that we actually push on stuff that will eventually be able to stick into the structure that we need. Yeah, I think that's the idea. So I'm going to go now, go and get some food, because it's important, as Christopher tells us. Mull over this idea, and then, I mean, if it seems like that's how you do it, then that's what we will do tomorrow. So yep, thank you very much, Heroes and Heroines, for being fantastic and wonderful and beautiful, and for being mundane. Honestly, if you're mundane, thank you for that. No, everybody, hope that is strictly programming video for Visual Studio. I'm not sure about that, mate. I'm just not sure. I think I'd have to install... I'd probably have to run it in Wine, wouldn't I? Although I wonder if Steam's Proton... I wonder if you could run Visual Studio via Steam's Proton. So you've got Steam's runtime going, you've got Proton going, you've got Visual Studio, and Visual Studio itself also pulling in... Is it an Electron app these days? I don't even know what that would pull in. Yeah, I'm not sure I fancy that. I might just stick with Vim for now. But anyway, yeah, that's all. See you later, alligators.